Theresa Lungaro-Mafsud from the dance workshop in Malta. She has a presentation for us, and when she's finished, then we can open things up. So go, Theresa.
Good afternoon, everyone, or good evening, or good morning, from wherever you come from. First of all, I would like to thank Barbara for this invitation to share with you our Cecchetti news from the tiny island of Malta. Before I get into the development of the Cecchetti work, I would like to give you a brief outline of our history of dance, because we do have a very special story to share. Princess Natalie Putyatyn was born in St. Petersburg in 1904, the daughter of Prince Paul and Princess Olga Putyatyn. She lived the life of a privileged princess, taking dance classes with Tamara Karsavina and Filia Dubruska at her home in Milonia Street. And it is said that Tchaikovsky was a regular guest at her parents' summer house. Life changed radically after the Russian Revolution in 1917 and the assassination of Tsar Nicholas II in 1918. In her book, My Mother, Princess Olga, Princess Putyatyn recounts how the Grand Duke Michael, successor to Tsar Nicholas II, had taken refuge in their home when she was only a teenager. It was in the Putyatyn's residence that the leaders of the provisional government made it clear to the Duke that the crowds wanted to overthrow him. The historical abdication document, which brought an end to the 300 years of Romanov rule, was signed on the school desk of the 13-year-old Natalie Putyatyn on the 17th March 1917. So I'm going to share a few photos with you now. That's it. Okay. So this is Princess Putyatyn. The photo belongs to Ms. Bayona, and a few years ago she allowed me to make a copy of it. So this is Princess Putyatyn when she was settled in Malta. As a result of the subsequent upheaval, the Putyatyn family, together with another 600 refugees, escaped on a small merchant ship to Romania and then to Constantinople, and finally arrived in Malta in April 1919. In 1921, the princess and her mother met up with her father to settle in Paris, where she continued her music studies and dance under the tutelage of Lubov Egorova. However, during her short stay in Malta, the princess had fallen in love with Edgar Tabone, who kept traveling to Paris to meet her. In 1927, she returned to Malta following her marriage to Edgar Tabone. In 1929, Princess opened her school, the Russian Academy of Dancing, at her aunt's house. And can I take this opportunity over here to thank Dr. Katrina Farrugia-Creel, who's with us this evening. She is Maltese, now settled in London, and she is an expert dance historian, and she has really studied the life and the art of Princess Putyatyn, and Malta is truly indebted to Katrina and all her research. So I really would like to thank Katrina here, because we've learned so much about Princess, thanks to Katrina. So my next photo, here we go, is Ms. Bayona. Two of Princess's very talented students were Daphne Lungaro and Tanya Bayona. Both eventually moved to London at a young age to pursue their dance studies. Ms. Lungaro later established herself here in Malta as a leading dance teacher in the RAD method, and Ms. Bayona set up the Cecchetti method here in Malta. Ms. Bayona's artistic experience with the Cecchetti method started in 1956. At age 11, she attended the Vaccani School of Ballet in Knightsbridge. She returned to London and the Vaccani School from 1958 to 1961, where she was introduced to the Cecchetti method. Her teachers were Miss June Day and Madame Vaccani. In 1962, she joined Nesta Brooking, where she completed her Cecchetti studies and obtained her associate qualification. In 1965, she opened her ballet school in Malta, and in 1966, the first Cecchetti examinations were held here in Malta. In 1981, Ms. Baiona amalgamated her dance school with that of Princess Puziatin. The new school was called the Tania Baiona Princess Puziatin Academy of Ballet. So this is me, it's my turn now. So my history with dance is certainly not as exciting as that of Princess Puziatin, but it's been a wonderful journey so far. My father, Simon, was a very good friend of Ms. Baiona. He was a strong swimmer, and he taught Ms. Baiona how to swim. So she told him that when he had children, she would teach his daughters how to dance. And that's how it's all started. In January 1972, my parents decided that my sister and I were to go to dancing lessons in order to round off our education. So my dad reminded Ms. Baiona of her promise and enrolled both of us in her school. My sister took up modern dancing, and Ms. Baiona suggested that I was the right age, I was 6, and had a good physique for classical ballet. It was as though a new world opened up to me. The shy little girl I was allowed to come out of her shell and express herself through dance and movement. It gave me such confidence as a young person, knowing that I had this talent in dance and that I too could stand out in a crowd. I never miss a class unless I was desperately sick, and I certainly never missed class to go to a party. I was fortunate enough that my parents made me realize that it was my responsibility to take my classes seriously if I wished to continue studying intensively. At Ms. Baiona's studio, we had regular performances, several international guest teachers, we took our Cecchetti exams regularly, and most importantly, Ms. Baiona encouraged us to travel further, to further our studies. We were an amazing cohort of students, several of whom opened their own school. They were where the Cecchetti method is still taught. My classmates included Brigitte Gauci-Borda, director of the Brigitte Gauci-Borda School of Dance, Deborah McNamara, examiner for the Spanish Dance Society and director of Estudio de Danza, Deborah McNamara School of Dance, Mireille Colero and Monique Pellegrini Petit, co-directors of Central Academy of Dance, and Anne Gatt, who set up a Cecchetti-based ballet school at St. Michael's School here in Malta. They all hold their licentiate qualifications in the Cecchetti method. So this photo was taken in 1985, and we all went up to London to do our associate, more or less within weeks of each other. So I am at the back, and in the next line there is Monique, Deborah McNamara, and Bridget, and Sandy De Domenico, who I believe is no longer involved in dance. She's a primary school teacher. So as usual, I challenged myself and pushed and obtained, under Ms. Baiona's guidance, my fellowship with distinction in 1991. So here's going to be a familiar face to some of you. Earlier, Ms. Baiona had introduced us to Miss Eileen Langman, a wonderful English teacher, but oh my goodness, she was rather scary. So just before all my teaching exams, I would spend 1 week with Mrs. Langman, studying and revising until she felt I was ready to take the exam. Gosh, she worked us hard, but it was all worth it. In 1992, following a year of living and studying in the north of England, I was awarded the Enrico Cecchetti diploma at the age of 26. I had managed to study for a few days with Mr. Gladstone and with Miss Eve Pettinger, and once again that famous 1-week course with Mrs. Langman. I was the second Maltese dancer to be awarded the Cecchetti diploma. The first was Ms. Baiona herself. And a third Maltese dancer has also gained her diploma. This is Pamela Kerr, and I'm very proud of Pamela. I trained her, and she's now my colleague at the dance workshop. Pam is also a fellow. Unfortunately, to the date, no other Maltese dancers have taken the Cecchetti diploma, But as far as I know, 5 Maltese teachers hold their fellowship status. Ms. Bayona, myself, Pam, Joanne Casabene, who's with us this evening, and Marisha Bonici. So on my return to Malta, Ms. Bayona offered me a post as assistant director at her school, and I was also performing as a soloist within Tanya Bayona Dance Theatre. 2 roles which I really enjoyed, and I feel they both helped me to develop as a Cecchetti dance teacher, with the understanding of the importance of quality of movement and musicality. With the company, we performed locally and also in Europe, Switzerland, Germany, and France. And from a teaching point, I was responsible for the advanced level students, and this certainly helped me to develop an eye for detail and to accept the responsibility of educating to my best knowledge the next generation of Maltese Cecchetti dancers. In 1991, I felt it was time for me to spread my wings and to open my own dance studio. My family, and especially my husband, encouraged me, and till this day, they are there to help in any possible way. My school has been running for 25 years now, and I am delighted that the Cecchetti work is as strong as ever. In fact, in December, we are hoping to enter around 12 advanced students. Annually, we successfully audition students for international summer schools, such as the Paris Opera, the Royal Ballet, English National Ballet School, and Elmhurst Ballet School. In 2000, I was appointed ISTD Malta representative for Cecchetti Classical Ballet and Modern Theatre. It has been wonderful to see so many new schools entering examinations and so many new teachers take their Cecchetti qualification. And this has led to several leading Cecchetti examiners visiting the island regularly, and for us to build connections with some wonderful teachers who would return to Malta to give courses regularly. 2005 was another exciting year for me personally, as I was invited to become a Cecchetti examiner. And shortly after, my school became the first ISCD approved center in Malta. I believe there are now 5 approved centers on the island. The Maltese teachers have really worked and promoted the Cecchetti work on the island, and the results have been overwhelming, with so many opportunities for me personally and for all the Malta-based teachers and students. Several teachers have been awarded scholarships to international Cecchetti summer schools, including the UK, Michigan, and Florence. And this has been very encouraging for us to continue to study and learn more about this wonderful method, about dance, and about the Cecchetti dance community. The island, which I will remind you is just 16 miles by 10 miles, boasts of 12 dance schools where students are prepared for Cecchetti examinations annually. We generally have just under 50 working days of exams every year. So that, you must agree, is quite an achievement for such a small island. In November 2015, we celebrated 50 years of Cecchetti Ballet here in Malta. We had a wonderful weekend celebration with Ms. Bayona as our guest of honor. Ms. Diane Van Schuur flew to Malta to conduct a series of classes, and we were truly honored that Dr. Gianandrea Poesio accepted our invitation to give a lecture on the life of Enrico Cecchetti. What I can say, both lectures were outstanding, and indeed we were very fortunate to have Dr. Poesio with us shortly before he sadly passed away. The Cecchetti Trust made this all possible through their generous sponsorship. In 2017, Catherine Hutchin, at that moment she was the chair of the Cecchetti Committee, got the ball rolling to set up the Cecchetti Malta Awards. Together, we planned this for a year, and in October 2018, we held the first edition with Anita Young as our adjudicator. And I am delighted to say that we are now preparing for our 6th edition of the ISTD Tanya Bayona Cecchetti Malta Awards, which is the official name of the awards. The awards aptly honor Ms. Bayona's work and dedication in establishing the Cecchetti method here in Malta. To date, I administer the event, and so I liaise with Philippa McMeekan and Sophie Marsland to coordinate this event from the ISTD side, and with my colleagues here in Malta, Bridget Gauci-Borda, Joanne Casabene, Nicola Fenech, Rowena Grech, and Mireille Colero, we work on the Maltese side of the awards. We meet up around once a month and we organize whatever needs doing. When we first launched the awards, we had only one level, the Tanya Bayona Senior Award. We now have 3 levels, and in the 2023 edition, we had 81 participants. The awards are generously sponsored by the Cecchetti Trust. Several of our winners are now studying vocationally in the UK. The 2019 Middle Award winner, Andrea Riolo, Andrea is was a student of Bridget Gauci-Borda, is in her final year at the Royal Ballet School. And the runner-up, Maya Todd, who was one of my girls, is in her final year at Tring Park for vocational arts. And the 2022 winner for the Tanya Bayona Senior Award, Leah Eluz Sullivan, this is the picture here is of Leah, is in her first year at Elmhurst Ballet School. Thanks to the hard work of Miss Carol Watson, is ISTD's international representative for Europe, we have restarted our Cecchetti CPD courses. The first was held in early March at the dance workshop. Miss Alison Jenner flew out to conduct the course. 28 teachers attended this busy weekend. We have already started on work. It was a huge success, by the way, and we have already started working on a follow-up course, which should happen in January 2025. Malta is the only European country outside the UK where ISTD has allowed an in-person Cecchetti course. And yes, I did work very hard to ensure that we had enough teachers registered in order for the course to go ahead. This was, the photo was taken on day 1, and there were more teachers on day 2. I'm going to stop sharing. I would like to mention some of Malta's very successful Cecchetti students from all the local Cecchetti schools who have worked towards their Cecchetti vocational exams and who have now found work in the dance world. Brenda Lee Grech, first of all, a student of Joanne Casabene, ex-soloist with Scottish Ballet and Drum Bear. Phoebe Schembri, a student of Bridget Gauci-Borda, is with the Bavarian State Ballet Company. Keith Mikalev, Pearl Kalea, and Ben Spiteri are now performing with Sfin Malta. Luc Bugea Gauci is Marcet Pierre in Lausanne, Switzerland. Diane Portelli and Dorian Malia are directors of Moveo Dance Company. These all studied Cecchetti, and they took their intermediate, their advanced 1 and advanced 2, some of them. These are just a few of our successes, and I'm sure there are more that I have missed out. To conclude, I look forward to seeing the next generation of young Cecchetti teachers develop their passion for the work and to continue this tradition which Miss Bayona and my generation have upheld for the last 60 years. Thank you very, very much. That's it.
Thank you. My goodness. Thank you, Theresa.
You're welcome.
I'm amazed. Questions, comments?